what is our justification for now emphasizing you're resting primarily in that awareness of awareness, the stillness of awareness? This is classic. Of course, it's there in Dudjom Lingpa's presentations, the Lakeborn Vajra's presentations, and throughout the Mahamudra tradition. Ne, gyu, rik, sum. Nepa is stillness, gyua is movement, rikpa is knowing, in this case simply cognizing, being aware of. Sum is 3. I'd say memorize that. Memorize. Stillness, movement, awareness. Stillness, movement, awareness. Stillness, movement, awareness. Because then you'll see in these key passages, it's in Mud and Feathers, it's here in the Vajra Essence, when the Lakeborn Vajra describes how a Lama is supposed to introduce you to the practice, as in pointing out instructions to the practice. And of course, Drupal Lama Karma told us exactly how Lama Nongdrpa gave him that practice before he went into his strict retreat. I want to say it exactly because I had it here. Remaining still without thinking of anything. Chiang Misempar doesn't mean you go unconscious. It means you are not making into thought anything. You're not turning anything into thought. So I'm content with this. Remaining still without thinking of anything is called stillness in the domain of the essential nature. In this case, the essential nature being the essential nature of the mind. The various thoughts that move and arise are called movement. Not letting any thoughts go by unnoticed, but recognizing them with mindfulness and introspection is awareness. This is the Lakeborn Vajra's definition of shamatha practice in that very short paragraph. So recognizing the movement is not the same as following it or getting interested in it, as Lama has just explained at length. So now I want to go to how do we transition from enmeshed mindfulness to single-pointed mindfulness? Because implicit in the very name of enmeshed mindfulness is you're going to get enmeshed a lot. You're going to be off the object. In this case, off the object means the awareness moved with the thoughts, rather than remaining in the stillness, in the stillness of the domain of the essential nature, and your awareness is resting in that stillness and the movements are recognized as movements. What happens when you're off the object in this practice? Awareness got taken by the movement and left the domain of this essential nature. Do you see how I'm connecting this to 9-stage language? Because sometimes it can be hard to say, well, what does it actually look like to be off the object? I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm aware, but yeah, that whole train of thought actually manifested as a complete train of thought. Does that mean I was watching it, or was I trailing with it? An image came to mind as we were discussing this in preparation. Jumping to a different image, but you've many times heard it, much further along in the path of shamatha, when you're watching the raven go up from the ship. And the analogy there is if you simply watch the raven and he doesn't find land, he will come back to the ship. And the ship is the stillness of your awareness. For a person who's at that correct stage, which now I'd say more is like 8 or 9. 7, 8? Okay. To have the capacity to watch that raven without it harming you, without the train of thought, as it were, of the raven's flight moving you from the ship, takes an awful lot of practice, and that's what I'm about to go through stage by stage. But that's different from getting dragged along by a cow. So if this helps you to have the image of you're watching the raven way up there and I'm on the ship and the thought will eventually exhaust itself and come back to the ship, as opposed to getting so interested in the cow of your thought that you're following the cow by its tail. So this transition from enmeshed into single-pointed, as Lamela has said for many years, and this holds, you can experience single-pointed mindfulness on the first day of practicing shamatha. It's not beyond a beginner to have the experience of stillness and movement unified, because that's the key. to have the experience of a stochastic random thought, as Lamela has described in very recent months, the completely random, whether verbal or imagistic, arising that's not your mind and doesn't have anything to do with your mind. And sometimes, and I've certainly experienced this, one can have that experience even when the mind is busy. Because if you can rest enough in awareness and not be still thinking, you can rest in awareness and suddenly realize there are 10 people in the room having conversations. And you hear voices, and they may have nothing to do with what's just happened. But if the mind is in an agitated place and you can drop back into stillness, you can actually recognize the disconnected stochastic nature of those mental images of voices, personalities, places, and so on. And it's just like a confetti or a kaleidoscope of images. But if you can not be distracted by laughing, not be distracted by how weird is that, stay in the stillness of awareness, then you are on top of whatever arises in the moment that it arises. And that's single-pointed mindfulness. But in terms of the stages, the Lake-born Vajra segues into single-pointed mindfulness in such a way that there is a clear maturation. He's describing something that's not at the beginning.
When you're simply resting in awareness of awareness, and you're pretty much there, and 1 hour goes by and 2 hours go by, after a while you might find it boring. Samsara is so much more interesting. All the narratives, the stories, the images, the appearances, the mental afflictions are quite interesting. And the real question is, can you be more interested in awareness, unadorned, unelaborated, than you are in all of the variety, the novelty, the diversity of the appearances of samsara? Can you be more interested in the mountain stream than all the offerings in the neighborhood bar or the supermarket? Can you be more interested in the mountain spring water than all the other beverages? William James speaks of 2 levels of attention. One is we sustain attention voluntarily because what we're attending to is so interesting or attractive, fun, a movie, excellent music, beautiful ballet, or what have you, or mountains. But one way we sustain attention is because the object is pretty cool, right? Engaging. But then there's another level of attention, voluntary, that is not because what we're attending to is so interesting, but because we value the fact of attending to it. Now, this happens in education all the time. When I was studying physics at Amherst College, what I was really interested in the context of physics was quantum mechanics. That's why I started it all together, of quantum mechanics. But I studied classical mechanics, and I studied electromagnetism, and then I studied advanced mechanics. A Buddhist monk studying advanced mechanics, are you out of your mind? Because I found it incredibly, astonishingly boring. Have a pendulum, and it's going, and where will it be in 3 minutes? Oh yeah, the inquiring minds want to know. It was so boring, it was unbelievable. But I felt I better do the groundwork if I'm going to earn my way to be able to really study quantum mechanics. And with all the mathematics, and I did. I wasn't interested in advanced mechanics, where you get one problem and you expect to work on it for 3 hours. But what I was interested in is gaining sufficient integrity of mastery of basic physics and calculus that when I went into quantum mechanics, I would do so legitimately and not as a tourist or a new ager, just looking for a little, candy. That's what I was interested in. I wanted to be able to enter into an understanding of quantum mechanics where I deserved to be there. And I was understanding. I knew the mathematics. I could work with the Schrödinger wave equation and so forth and so on. between the fascinating array of appearances in samsara, from the hell realms to the deva realms. Really interesting, and always changing, and always novel. It's novel, 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 as opposed to a continuous, unchanging, continuous stream. I'm quoting as, what is it? Gyatso Rinpoche. The stream of consciousness that you're attending to is unchanging. It doesn't change into different varieties of mountain spring water. It's mountain spring water. Beginning, middle, and end, it's the same mountain spring water. It doesn't change, and it's continuous. That's what you're attending to, is a flow of awareness that is unchanging. I don't mean static, not transcendent, but it doesn't change into anything else, and it's continuous. If that's what you're focusing on, you're focusing on the one element of the whole range of experiences you have as a human being that will not cease when you die, will not terminate in the dying processes. All the sensory appearances, everything you owned, you don't own anymore. Your body that was yours, not anymore. Your mind, poof. Your personality, poof. Memories, poof. All gone. Everything you acquired, gone. The only thing that doesn't go is that mountain stream of the sheer luminosity and cognizance of awareness, and that passes right into the dark entertainment. It's still there. And if you're lucid approaching it, you can be lucid when you get there. You can be lucidly dead. And then when that collapses, and the next event is a clear light of death, you're already lucid. And you're riding the wave of that stream of cognizance and luminosity. That's the one keeper. You never acquired it. There was never any point at conception or in the bardo or any time in the past when you freshly acquired the stream of consciousness. You never acquired it. And you can never lose it. You may wish to at times, just have everything stop. It's not an option. It's a pipe dream. It's the one thing you didn't acquire, but you'll always have. You're a hitchhiker, and some rides will take you only 5 miles. But if you're going from here to, let's say, Maine, if you catch a ride and you ask the driver, where are you heading to? He said, I'm going to Maine. Get in that car. Because that was the one that will take you all the way there and not just drop you off in Denver or St. Louis and so forth and so on. That's interesting, isn't it? That you're attending to the one aspect of your experience that continues through life and death all the way to Buddhahood. It's the one thing you have in common with the Buddhas right now. All their qualities you don't have. All your mental afflictions, they don't have. But the one thing you both have equally is the sheer luminosity and cognizance of awareness. And you have that in common with the Buddha. That's what you have in common with Rigpa. That's what you have in common with the substrate consciousness. Is that interesting? Would you like to focus on that which is immortal, that never was freshly born? The substrate consciousness never had a moment, wow, getting born. It never got born. Moment to moment, yeah. It never had a first moment. And it will never have a last moment until it actually simply completely is unveiled as Dharmakaya. Is that interesting? To focus on that which you never acquired and you'll never lose. And if that's all you're riding on, and that's the only thing you're identifying with, you will never die, because the substrate consciousness never dies. Body dies, mind dies. All your possessions are lost. This doesn't die. Is that interesting? Would you like to discover that and not simply believe it? Discover that and ride that vehicle wherever it takes you. And then on this note, Yangdon Rinpoche, speaking from such vast experience, and we asked him, what's your daily schedule like when you're in retreat? We asked him, he told us, 16 hours a day, regularly. That's level 3 shamatha retreat. That's where you achieve shamatha. Level 1, a nice rounded bouquet, good. And be content with that. If you can't be content, then get out of retreat, for heaven's sakes. It's not for you now. If you can't have a nice variety of practices that fills your day, and if you still want something more like, oh, hedonic pleasure, then come out of retreat, practice in a socially engaged way of life. That's fine. You want to achieve shamatha, but you can have a virtuous life. Level 2, where you're primarily focusing on shamatha, but other things to support, that's good. And be content. But the deeper you go, the more you can be content with less and less and less, until you're totally content of just drinking from the pure mountain stream and doing that maybe 16 hours a day. And the Yangtze Rinpoche said, when on this practice, and he said, practice this for as long as it takes, this level. And then you stream right through, like hypersonic, you stream right through Vipassana and right to the cutting edge, cutting through to Rigpa. That's fast. But the liftoff can be a bit slow. But he said, as long as it takes, do it. And once you are there and you're drinking from the cup of the substrate consciousness, blissful, luminous, and non-conceptual, you haven't realized Rigpa, but you are close. You are close. Is that interesting? Then be more interested in this than all the variety of samsara. Because we've already been there and done that. Samsara is boring. At its very best, it's just so boring.